Yes.
Hi, Emmeline.
Hi, Mitchell. Good afternoon. Good evening.
So here we are. We're doing Facebook Live. I'm Mitchell Proner.
My
I'm
name is
go ahead.
Emily Sanchez.
And what we're doing is Facebook Live. We're going to be talking about cases with surgery. A lot of people want to know different details about when somebody has a surgery, how it affects their case. And by way of introduction, I'm doing this work for over 35 years. I've lectured to bar associations across the United States and in Canada and Europe. All I do is plaintiff's personal injury work, which means I only represent the victims. I never represent insurance carriers or corporations, although I frequently sue them. And Emmeline's one of my paralegals. Love
Yes.
and has been with me for a couple of years now, and I'm lucky to have her and delighted to do the program with her.
It's so great being here this evening with you, Mitchell, and it's great working for the firm. It's been a wonderful experience.
So, what do we have for tonight?
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how a personal injury case and surgeries, how long it could take when surgeries are involved.
All right. So, basically, a lot of times it used to be years ago when somebody had an accident, they either had surgery right away or they didn't. Nowadays, different surgical techniques with arthroscopic surgery, minimally invasive procedures. People oftentimes have injuries, they bother them, and they start to contemplate getting a surgery. So typically, there's a few things to consider. First of all, people want to know how's it going to affect their case. Whether or not you get a surgery should be determined between the accident victim and their doctor. The lawyer shouldn't be telling you get a surgery or don't get a surgery. If you have a lawyer that says to you you need to get a surgery for whatever reason, you got the wrong lawyer because your health is always more important than any money a lawyer is going to get you. And whether or not you get a surgery depends on what your doctor tells you. Not every surgery is successful. Doctors oftentimes promise good results, but sometimes every doctor has some surgeries that they might perform where the symptoms don't get better despite the doctor's skill and doing the right surgery. Usually, surgeries do help. Uh, I had surgery twice on my shoulder. It's not perfect. I still have pain in my shoulder, but there was an improvement. I don't regret getting the surgery. But the second surgery was necessary because the first one wasn't really successful. And I actually went back to the same surgeon who did a new procedure. I didn't do that for money that I was going to get out of a case. There was no case. But it is an important consideration what type of surgery you're getting and whether or not it's going to improve your health. Beyond that, you probably do want to know how's it going to affect the case. Typically, a surgery will add value to a case. The case is going to settle for more money, or if it goes to trial, get an award from a jury for more money than if you don't get the surgery. But it also is going to slow down the case. Why? The reason typically it will slow down a case is because let's suppose a case is going, it's in suit. Typically, when you have an accident, that doesn't mean you have a lawsuit. If you hire a lawyer, that doesn't mean you have a lawsuit. That means you have a claim. You probably had the claim whether you hired the lawyer or not, but now you have a lawyer helping you out with the claim. And typically, a lawyer will get together your medical records, your medical bills, any loss of earnings, any documentation, and present them to a carrier and try to obtain a settlement. Some cases, the lawyer might know early on it's not going to settle, or they might know after the initial negotiation it's not going to settle, and they determine they have to put the case in suit. Sometimes suit is filed right away. get the discovery that you need to determine the right parties in the lawsuit. And sometimes the lawyer will wait for whatever reason because they're trying to settle it, or maybe they're just lazy, or maybe they have too many cases and they can't process them all. But once a suit is filed, the accused parties are called defendants. The ones that your lawyers are alleging did something wrong. They're the defendants. The defendants have to put in an answer. And after the answer, the case goes into a period called discovery, where they could take testimony at depositions, they could have their doctors examine you, and then the case gets put on the calendar for either a settlement or trial. But during discovery, if you get a surgery, well, then they can reopen discovery and get another deposition and another physical examination, even if they've already had it, because now you're alleging a new procedure. So it might slow the case down for 3 months or 6 months, depending on the surgery and the recovery, but you definitely want to get the surgery before your case is settled and not afterwards. Because if you get it before your case is settled, chances are you get the surgery paid for from your settlement rather than having it come out of your insurance or your personal pocket, and you could get additional money for pain and suffering. And you can't go back and settle the case again after you get your surgery.
All right, guys, we are live. So if you ever have any questions or concerns, feel free to send in any questions, and we're always here and happy to help you.
Thank you, Emily.
Yes, of course. So you were talking about how the case value increases if a client does get surgery. Why shouldn't a client settle or try to settle a case before having the surgery if they need it?
Okay, so let's suppose, let's talk about a neck surgery, okay? So somebody gets into an accident, and let's suppose it's a workplace accident, a labor law case. They were doing demolition and they fell from a ladder, or a car accident. They're hitting the rear, or maybe it's a side swipe. And there's a question as to who's at fault. For whatever reason, they got injured and they got a lawyer blaming someone. Okay. Now, they go to the hospital and the doctor at the hospital takes x-ray, says nothing's broken, filed with the doctor have problems. In the meantime, the person can't sleep, they're in excruciating pain, they're in spasm, they can't even focus on what their kids are saying and their spouse saying because it's constantly hurting, and they can't seem to get their neck right. So they go for treatment, they go for therapy. A couple of months go by, they get an MRI. The MRI says they got a herniated disc in their back, and the disc is pressing up against the nerve, and that's why it's hurting and it's annoying, and they can't take sleep, they're taking pills. So the doctor gives an injection, maybe gives 3 injections, and says, how do you feel? Well, the injections worked for a little bit, but then it went away. The doctor says, okay, pain is coming from the nerve, we could fix that. It's a surgery. And now, person says, I don't want to get the surgery. I just don't want it. I'm afraid. Okay, fine. Don't get the surgery. But the case maybe is only worth 30 grand. You got some injections. Yeah, but my doctor says I need surgery. They have a doctor that says you don't need surgery. So now there's 2 doctors. One doctor says you need surgery. The other doctor says she's fine. Doesn't need any surgery. What's the jury going to believe? Who knows? The jury might think, well, she's just saying this neck problem is, because she's trying to get some money from a lawsuit. And if she really needed the surgery, she would get it. Now, You settle for 30,000, you still can't live with your neck. So eventually you say, I got to get the surgery. Surgery is a microdiscectomy. The doctor goes in, makes incisions the size of like half an inch. 3 incisions, one for the camera, one for the equipment, 3 incisions, a half inch each, goes in. You're in and out the same day. Well, now the case might be worth hundreds of thousands, maybe even $1 million. Maybe. Maybe not, depending on your lawyer and how the case is presented. But after you settle for 30,000, you can't go back and get that $1 million. And now you know what? Your neck feels better.
Now, let's say the client does decide to have the surgery. Is it better for them to try to settle, or should they try to take the case to trial?
So, first of all, a settlement is always better than a trial, because with a settlement, you know what you're going to get. With a trial, there are uncertainties, but your lawyer should guide you through the process. So, for example, I had a case just recently where a client didn't get an offer on his case. So we decided we have no choice. We got to go to trial. During the trial, the other side offered $2.3 million. And I said to the client, what do you think? And the client said to me, what do I think? And I told the client, I think the jury is looking at the case favorably, and I think we'll do better. But we could do worse. It's not guaranteed. My client went with my advice, and the jury came back with $4 million. It wasn't that I knew they would come back with $4 million. I just thought it was going to be better to take the verdict. But I was praying that they came up with more than 2.3 because I didn't want to give them the wrong advice. It's not easy making those decisions, but a good lawyer should guide you the right way. Another case right before that one, it was a broken hip, non-surgical broken hip. We wanted $750. The other side only offered $250. My client said, what do you think? I said, it's up to you, but I think we go ahead. Jury came back with $2,050,000. And, he made the right decision also. But you got to have a lawyer that gives you good advice, of course. But it's a risk. With a settlement, you're always better off taking a settlement because you know what you're getting. But if the settlement that they're offering just doesn't seem like enough, then you got to have a lawyer that's ready to go ahead and try the case. And you got to have confidence in your attorney.
That's great. That's a great answer, Mitchell. Thank you for giving us the answer. So in regards to prior injuries, when it comes to clients having surgeries from prior accidents, does this have any repercussions when they're coming to you with a new fresh case?
Yes, that's a great question. So if somebody has had a surgery and they get into a second accident, they might still be entitled to compensation. The claim is brought for exacerbation of a pre-existing condition. Well, it's kind of like, let's suppose, okay, I played hockey when I was a kid. We used to slam into each other constantly. We get knocked to the ice, we get right back up. We actually did a drill where the coach would blow a whistle and we would jump in the air and land on our chests, and then we'd have to get back on our skates as fast as possible. We were just throwing ourselves onto the ice and getting back up. If I even tried to do that now, I'd be crippled. I couldn't do it. But a young person has more resiliency. So it's only logical that if you take a young person and you have them exposed to forces, maybe it's a fender bender or something, they might walk away and be fine. But if you take an old person that's already had 2 surgeries on their back and one on their knee and one on their shoulder, and they get into a fender bender, they might be damaged because they're more brittle, they're more damaged to begin with. So it's easier to break them. And if it's the same body part that they were injured before, it doesn't mean they don't have a claim. You just need to prove exacerbation of a pre-existing condition. And typically that's done with a doctor who looks at the x-rays, looks at the MRIs previously, looks at the records, and can determine whether or not there's changes. And those changes are often enough to get a client compensation that they deserve. You got your mic muted. There you go.
Sorry. That was great, Mitchell. Thank you for that answer. And remember, everyone, consultations are always free. Always feel free to contact us at 1-800-321-1234. We do have 2 questions from the audience. Let's see. Okay, Luis Carlos Perez says, what happens if the surgery takes place years after the accident?
And oftentimes it does. Even if it takes place years after the accident, that's not infrequent. That happens all the time where people try to live with their pain. They try to get conservative treatment. They try to get therapy, acupuncture, chiropractic treatment, whatever it is. And then eventually they get the surgery. The papers are amended. The pleadings are amended. It gets brought into the lawsuit, and the case is still typically worth considerably more than if they don't get the surgery.
Okay, great. And we also have another question coming in from Estefania. Why should I hire an attorney? Can I get compensation by negotiating directly with the insurance company?
So, insurance companies are big businesses. They make their money by collecting as much money as possible in premiums, paying out as little money as possible in claims. And when they have a claim, they have to set a reserve. That means they have to put aside money to pay that claim. And they invest those reserves. They put them in investment accounts. And they hope to make money on their investments. Now, the longer their money is in the investment account, the more money they can make off of it. Investments typically increase in value over time. So they're going to delay the claim. The only reason why they would pay a claim early is that they could get it at a discount. And the discount is too big to give up when it's your case. You're worth it. You should get what you're entitled to. And there's all sorts of studies that have shown that even after paying attorney's fees, cases where there is an attorney involved are going to settle for more money than an individual handling on their own and not having to pay attorney fees. You can just Google it and you'll see you get more money with an attorney than without an attorney, because an attorney has leverage. A good attorney can say, if you don't settle, we'll go to trial. And a good attorney will have a reputation as a trial lawyer. I was elected president of the New York State Academy of Trial Lawyers, which is the largest state trial bar in the country. I've lectured to trial bars across the country and in Canada and Europe. I've handled claims for people from all over the world. I have multi-million-dollar verdicts. Everybody knows I know how to try a case. So naturally, when I say, if you don't want to settle, that's fine, we'll go to trial, it means something.
Okay, great, Mitchell. Thank you so much. And also, don't forget, everyone, subscribing to our YouTube channel is free. So don't Don't be afraid to press that subscribe button or follow button. We're here. We're going to move on to a testimonial video that proves just how much Mitchell Proner is good at his job.
And my
Shauna
whole
Bliss, a motorcycle accident. I was going straight and a minivan was making a left-hand turn. I was very scared and I actually got referred here by a friend of mine. I had a broken thumb and a sprained knee. Oscar was my attorney. He made everything very easy, asked for all the documents, sent them over to him. Everything was fairly quick in terms of everything. I mean, I've never had an attorney before, but as far as attorneys, I felt he did amazing. Yes, they should definitely go with Proner and Proner.
Yeah, she was talking about Oscar. Oscar's one of my associates. He started out as a paralegal, and now he's an attorney in the office. So it's good to have him in my entire team, and I'm thankful for my entire team, and I'm mostly thankful for my clients. If I didn't have clients, I wouldn't enjoy the profession as much as I do. I certainly couldn't do it without clients.
We also have a comment here from Gilberto Apunte. He says, thank you for the program. Now we can listen every Tuesday in English and Thursdays in Spanish. If you guys are interested, don't forget that we also have our page, Abogados de Confianza, which goes live every Thursday at the same time, 6 p.m. So don't miss it. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and follow all of our social media pages to keep in touch with us and our office and learn more about future personal injury topics that might be helpful for you, for your family, or your friends.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And thank you to my lovely and talented paralegal, Emmeline, and looking forward to doing more programs.
Yes. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks.
Hello, we are here with Brooklyn and Emma. They are visiting New York City. Is the first time here?
It is, yes. It's my third time.
Do you know what can you do if you have an accident?
No. I would call my dad first.
So if you had an accident, you can take pictures of the defect of the place that you had the accident. You can call the ambulance, and also you can call to the number 212-986-3030. Proner and Proner, attorneys at law.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you.
If you had an accident in New York City, call 212-986-3030. Proner and Proner, attorneys at law.